We dug deep into the internet archives to look at our channels from times gone past. There's all the features that we remembered. And then while going through and doing this research, there's all the stuff that we ended up finding that we had completely forgotten about. And probably the most significant one is the first thing that we should talk about, which is, do you remember custom channel layouts?
Oh yeah, it was huge. I mean, I was because I and we're talking about the Wayback Machine. So I pulled up a couple of of my YouTube channels or my YouTube channel from 2009 and then one from 2012. The one from 2012 is probably the most garish that I did. So you could have the custom backgrounds on your channel page. And so mine was just filled with sawdust and and then a picture of me up there pointing at the name of the channel. It's kind of cringy looking
I
at
seem
that.
to remember that the backgrounds worked on the y-axis, if I remember, as in they repeated downward, or
They
you had to make one massive, huge image and
That's what it
actually
was. Yeah.
size the middle bit to fit the contents, because the middle bit was static at that time. It didn't really have the stretchability or the adaptiveness of stretching to the screen. So you kind of always had the same amount of pixels to work with in the middle.
Yeah. Those backgrounds just got out of hand. And boy, I think, see, this is one of the things that I think YouTube did the right thing here to get rid of those. And I at the time, there was a lot of backlash from people. They did not want those backgrounds to be retired. And
The graphic designer in me didn't want those backgrounds to be retired.
right.
I hated the fact that I was going to lose control of what the background of our YouTube channel was going to
Right.
look like. And everything
And
was going to look uniform, and we were all
right.
going to lose our unique identities.
That's exactly the way it was. Everybody's, it all looks so the same and bland now. I don't want to look at it. And but yeah, there were some of those that were were pretty hard to look at. And up in the banner though, you could have and this I totally forgot about, was the image mapping. You could put
Yes.
hyperlinks in the banner of your background.
Back in the early days of HTML and websites and whatnot, I think you probably can still do it. Maybe it was image mapping or
Yeah.
hotspots, I believe they were called. So you
Right.
could have a big image and then draw a little kind of layer on top of it, and that'd be an active area, and you could send it. Remember, you could literally send people anywhere. You could just make those links be to a certain website, and people could be on your YouTube channel and click the Woodworking for Mere Mortals website, and it would just send them away to it. Now they control that so much. Obviously, they
Yeah.
have you only get one kind of like authorized website that you can link out to, and you need to prove it and whatnot. But it was the
Right.
Wild West back then.
It was. And I think one of the common themes about YouTube features and how they retire them and is how much backlash they always get from people. And it's usually people, I don't think, that just haven't been on the platform long enough. And back then nobody had been on the platform a long time. But now I notice whenever they get rid of a feature, bring something new in, it seems like the people who have been around the longest are kind of like, "Yeah, okay." You just kind of roll with the punches. It's kind of the nature of YouTube.
We've seen this all before.
Right. Right.
So while we're also talking about features and features that went away, however, this is one feature that when it went away, I was very happy for it, because I thought it started leading to some real kind of suspicious activity, which was you used to be able to make reply videos
Oh, yeah.
specifically to the video. So someone would release a video and upload it, and then you could leave a comment was one option, or in the actual, I think it was in the comment box, you could turn on your webcam and record a response to that video, which would only be shown in the description kind of area of that particular video. So it wasn't excuse me, like putting a video, uploading a video to YouTube and everybody can see it. Only people that would be able to see this video would be people who were watching the original video, and the title of the video would be and then whatever the title name was, kind of like an email chain works.
Mhm.
And then people realized that some people, at least, of the female persuasion, realized that they could wear low-cut tops and respond to a video with even the most unrelated kind of chat. But so long as they showed off their ample bosom, that they would end up getting a whole bunch of views. Hence the reply girls kind of period of YouTube, which was
Right.
very dark. And I believe the reason why that feature ended up getting retired was mostly because of the abuse that was happening to it.
Jeez, I didn't even know about that part. All I knew is I did the video responses a little bit. I had a contest a long, long time ago, and you had to submit a video response, and then it was so everybody could look at those video responses and then kind of judge them who should be the winner of this contest. I forget what it was. You had to make something, or I don't know, it was something really innocuous on my channel. I mean, it was just woodworking, but that was about the only time I used it. But I know that the official reason why YouTube abandoned the video responses was that nobody, what they were saying was basically nobody watched them. It was like less than 0.04% of the views or something would come from a video response, and it just wasn't worth, you know, all the infrastructure, I guess, to maintain that. I don't know.
Here was a really confusing one. Do you remember when they had Friends
See,
on
I
YouTube?
never understood Friends. I
And
still
neither did
don't.
and even when they retired Friends, or I think they merged them with subscribers
Yeah.
ultimately.
Right.
I think you could be a friend of someone without being a subscriber.
Oh yeah, yeah.
If that's ended up how it worked. And they kind of had two different streams, but it was confusing as to why you were friending someone on a platform where you really couldn't interact with them outside of
Well, I
watching
think
and sharing videos.
I think what happened is that it was YouTube's attempt at making it more of like a social network kind of a thing. And so what they had is Friends on your, as another feature they don't have anymore, was they had like a discussion tab on your channel page where it was like a kind of like a forum, really, where it would just be an ongoing chat sort of back and forth. And in order to participate with that channel, I think you had to be a friend with it. So there were, I think I mentioned this before, but I remember when my son was like 10 or 12 years old, his friends would use that, and that was basically, they would have YouTube channels. They wouldn't post videos, but they would just use that to talk about videos, to talk to each other. It's an interesting time.
Kind of like Facebook works, where you have a wall. Do they still call them walls? Like you have your own wall and people post on your
Probably.
wall. I think I'm really dating myself. Like I think it was MySpace that called it a wall.
Right.
But actually they moved from that, and didn't they go into Google Plus, or do you remember that
Google
period
Plus
of time?
Okay, now Google Plus was the one that really, that was the first genuine outrage among YouTubers and people who just watched YouTube, was that you were forced to set up a Google Plus page or account in order to use YouTube.
That was the one that I was on the side of the people who were complaining. I had a pitchfork in
me
my
too. I didn't
soapbox.
understand.
I was not happy about the fact of being forced to do it.
Yeah.
And they were trying to move the conversation over there for a while. And then they tried to turn the entire comment section into like a Google Plus.
They did.
They went hard on it for a while. For a 2-year period, they went very hard on Google Plus. And it was a lame duck out of the gate. It was a lame duck.
They so wanted to be the Facebook killer. And you know, Google Plus, did you ever, well, obviously you had a Google Plus account, but did you ever actually use the Google Plus social site, you know?
I remember being really confused about how it works.
So, I mean, I think Facebook is confusing, but this thing was it felt like it was just made by developers, and there was no insight into user, you know, because they're like, okay, you have to have friends, but then you put them in circles, remember? And it was like a Venn diagram or something of who was going to be part of your Google Plus.
And it was so intrusive and overbearing, and they really went hard on making sure that like everybody signed up, and they made it an obligation. And then it was tough because in order to change like your profile picture, your avatar, you had to go through and do it on Google Plus.
Right.
And then yeah. So and we would end up sharing our video as well, like in the time where I was like, share it on Twitter, share it on Facebook, and share it on Google Plus. And they were trying to encourage us to put it in our banners as like another.
Right.
Like,
I remember that.
Stay in your lane, YouTube. Like you ended up winning. You didn't need to become Facebook. No one likes Facebook anymore. And now everybody likes YouTube because you guys didn't do that. I think that was the secret, was to stay away from something.
If you were to find some YouTube videos of the time, I would have to look at about what that time period was when Google Plus was, you know, forced upon people, and look through the comments. What you would see is there was a lot of these kind of comment memes, I guess, going around where people would just flood the comments with like, remember there was like Bob, there was like
the tank, and he used
the little tank.
Wow. We're gonna have to find some screenshots of that.
Yeah.
I do remember.
He's like shooting Google Plus or something, and it was just, and you would copy and paste those in the comment section. Here's one. Okay, and I alluded to this in the intro, the 301 view count. I know it wasn't actually, it's
It's not a feature, a glitch. I mean, it was.
From a technical standpoint, it was a feature. And so those of you who have been around on YouTube, using YouTube since, when did they finally change that?
August 2015 is when they stopped.
God, has it been that long?
It has been.
So if you've been on YouTube for longer than 5 or 6 years, you'll remember the 301 view count. And it was, what would happen is whenever you posted a video, if it was a video that was got quite a bit of traction. If you had a video that would get 5 views a day or something, it wouldn't apply to that. But so it would start racking up your view counts, and then it would stop when it got to 301. Sometimes it would be 302. It would be close to there. And you would always see people in the comments and they had to be people who just were new to YouTube or something. They'd say, I don't understand this. How is this only 301 views and there's 3,000 comments or something? But do you remember exactly the purpose of that? Could you, from a technical point?
So in anticipation of this, I actually did a little bit of reading, and I found an interview with a Google employee, and they mentioned that it is kind of what we think it is. I think they do it in the background now, for the most part, and I'm sure it's incredibly hard to do in real time at the scale that they have to do it. Yeah. But 300 views, I believe, was the amount of views a video would get to put it into a category, which would be like the top, like kind of 1%. We all get that millions of videos are uploaded every day to YouTube, but for the most part, there's a small percentage of videos which get uploaded every day that are going to get a huge amount of traction and a lot of views. There's a lot of videos that get uploaded that get 12 views, further to your earlier point. And way back in the day, and it's been this way for a very long time on this platform, it's a race to get as many views as possible. That's always been the perception of a good video, is get as many views as possible. So people would do anything that they could and to ramp up the views as quickly as possible. So Google or YouTube decided to put in a period where they go through and they vet the views, or they kind of make sure that everything's on the up and up with the traffic, where it's coming from, if it's unique IPs and da da da. And clearly that probably back in the day 5 years ago took a little bit of time to do. So they would race you on up to 301 views, and then I remember for a while they would say 301 and there would be a little plus behind it,
right?
To insinuate that you're well past 301 views. But hold on, everyone, we're checking each one. We're checking all of the ballots to make sure that each of the votes is being counted correctly.
And it was because advertising got in there, and they wanted to make sure that those were valid views, that there wasn't some sort of bots that were just racking views.
I'll allow us to assure you it had nothing to do about making sure that the view counts are accurate. It came down to advertiser dollars and making sure that the advertisers were happy and not, getting spammed, viewed by some person's gaming channel who sends it out to all their friends and they spam the views or whatever.